Many thanks for keeping us company, and if you just tuned in, this is Y254, and here on Discussion Monday we are talking about the Big Four Agenda Revamp, and in particular we shall be talking more of the two pillars, that is manufacturing and food security, and lightly on infrastructure. So keep it Y254 to the end. A reminder, with me in studio is political analyst Daniel Orogo and an entrepreneur Calvin Jodosi. Good evening, gentlemen, and welcome.
Good evening.
Now, on Saturday, the 20th, we celebrated the Mashujaa Day, and I want to ask a very one-off question, not in line with what we are speaking about. The president said, were it not for the handshake, there will not be the development that we have seen. And I want your comments. Daniel, do you think the handshake has contributed to the development like we could be seeing them right now?
Yeah, thank you for Hilary for inviting us to this wonderful program.
Thank you.
One of the things we actually have to appreciate is the fact that there have been tranquility ever since we had the handshake on 9th of March. In that there is now, the two leaders have harmonized the country, and the country is cohesive. And there is a manner in which now every political wing are having a goodwill for us to now concentrate really on matters of development, as opposed to season politicking that has brought the country to its downhill. So I believe that the president, and who is the head of state, in his right sense of mind, actually informed Kenyans, not only announcing or rather updating them, but also telling them the importance of cohesion, importance of reaching out to one another and shaking hands for the benefit of Kenya.
That's true. Yeah. Calvin, you have a different opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I have the same opinion. I mean, the handshake has really help shape this country, and especially the conversation. And I think it's not only obviously for the president, but it's actually for all of us in different walks of life. And what handshake is trying to show us is that we need to come together, we need to unite together, irrespective of your religion, your color, and different aspect, your tribe, and all that. So it's not only for for the president and the prime minister, but actually it's for all of us.
True.
Yeah.
Now, in the spirit of development, in the spirit of the Big Four agenda, and in the spirit of devolution, he was in Kakamega, and we know the western region is known in producing a sugarcane, and there has been a problem with our companies or our processing companies, and maybe we could speak of the Mumias and the Sony Sugar and the rest. And now the problem there has been is pricing. Farmers would produce a sugarcane and then sell to private sectors. And if I could borrow from what the president said to maize farmers, he said, don't sell maize to private sectors, sell them to the government. Now, this is the problem that has been happening even in the western region. Now, what do you think should be done to ensure that farmers don't sell to private sectors, they now sell to the public or the government manufacturing companies or industries rather? Daniel.
Hilary, if you remember some times ago, the minister and the cabinet secretary who is in charge of finance had issued a circular that there is a window for importation.
Sure.
But what we lacked by that time, we didn't know until when is the stoppage, where is this circular coming to an end. And that is what led to our industry, especially the sugar industry, being flooded by exports, those that are coming from outside. So that left our farmers with very limited options. You could hear very sad stories about if you go to Western Kenya or the sugar belt region, people are actually using sugar for firewood. And you see, that is very unfortunate. If it is a commodity that is income generating. So one of the things that I would probably look into, that now the president has been very upfront when it comes to his stern warning, actually issuing ultimatum to the Minister of Agriculture and actually even the Minister of Finance to come up with a policy on how this will encourage our farmers, who I think somebody should mention them as a hero. These are hero and heroines, people who actually at the bare knuckle of the production of these regions, but they are getting less. So one of the things that I would see is actually that, you know, when private entities are coming up with enticement, and the rate of poverty, probably the rate of need that we are seeing in our areas, in rural areas, they will actually entice these farmers actually to sell to them, as opposed to our public institutions and our public industries. But again, one of the things that we would also want to touch, why has there been a lot of pumping, of revamping of this industry for a number of times? And President, when he actually invited the representative from Western Kenya in State House, he was very, like, he gave us an insight that, and told us from the Grand Coalition government, and his first term, there have been a number of efforts to try to pour money to revamp, but there is less that has been up for this. So there needs to be a very strong policy in terms of encouraging the local who are producing to actually liaise and sell to the public manufacturing, as opposed to private manufacturers who actually take advantage of the value addition process.
Yeah, we'll be coming to the policies that should be laid out. Now, Calvin, one of the things or one of the reasons people sell, or the people from the Western region sell their cane to private sector, is because their money is fast and it's higher. But then the question is, if you provide faster and for higher amounts, and then we don't get that sugar even to someone in Nairobi because the distribution is said to be less, that's why we will have people importing sugars. And then there has been people farming the sugar. So why do you think farmers, apart from the payer and everything else, opt to go to private sectors?
I mean, just also going back to what the president was discussing last Saturday during the the Shujaa Day. I mean, there's a few things that came out, and one of the things that before I go to that, one of the things that categorically came out, and the president was asking, I mean, we've invested a lot of money here. You know, we've pumped in up to 2 billion, but we can't actually see this thing moving. So the number one question was, can we do a very strong audit to be able to know that this money actually has been used maybe to pay maybe the farmers, or for example, maybe to buy a particular machine or something like that. And that is what, I mean, that's what he's been emphasizing on, is that, you know, yes, we're willing to, you know, revamp some of our, sugar companies, but can we get a clear audit? So what I'm trying to say is that once, if we're actually able to revamp this, the different sugar companies, we actually can be able to produce enough sugar for all of us, because even what we produce locally actually is not enough for our own consumption. So leave alone thinking about exporting and all those kind of stuff. And so that's the reason why we encourage a lot of import, because if we cannot produce enough that we can actually satisfy our own need, then we will actually need to import to cover that deficit. So I think the reason why we, most of our farmers opt to, for example, sell to the the private sector is that because even the public cannot be able to meet that particular, because our sugar companies can only probably take up to a particular ton of, for example, the canes and all that kind of stuff. So I think the most important thing is that the new phase is that yes, we're looking at revamping our different sugar companies, but we need to know up to what stage, up to what extent, how much can we manufacture and something like that. So I think that should be the key focus. Yeah.
Before we move to the maize production and maize farming and processing, still on sugar, you just mentioned they have been given money every now and then, and every electioneering period we hear promises and then they're given money. Daniel, where does this money go? Has there been misappropriation, or just what happens because they're given money and we expect result but we never see them?
Well, matters of money are quite complicated, and I like the way you put it, and you see it's heads up and straightforward to why have we found ourselves here, is like you could see that much of when there is going to be a political schism and the trumpets for political election is coming, then there is a number of goodies.
True.
There's a number of promises that are always given to these particular sectors to entice the electorate, because truly that is what the electorates would want to hear, that there would be a revamping of this manufacturing industry for them to accrue the income, to be employed. But just like you said, and my colleagues mentioned, the importance of trying to know why, trying to audit and get why are we investing into empty holes? Why are we putting our money to where they cannot be traced? Each and every election, are we not really realizing that it's really our strategies for revamping this is not working? So partly what probably I would advise the government to really be keen on, the number of investigation, the number of auditing, the number of prosecution that have been done concerning those who are suspected. And we, with all due respect, that we do not want to discuss what is in the court.
True.
But when we probably would discuss probably the merits of why we are here as a Kenyan nation for matters of public interest,
Right.
it's simply because we are treating our people to be really less important. Why? It's simply that the industry, the big four agenda, and I like what the president actually said, that he is looking towards a section where this thieving would come to an end. Because he's very frustrated. And sorry, because sometimes I would deviate, because these are political matters combined with political economy. We can't discuss development minus political economy.
Sure.
You understand, Hillary, you see, that we cannot have healthy politics when our stomach are empty.
True.
When we are hungry.
True.
And that is why when we have a big four agenda, the president has actually have to crack the whip, begin not only, and I like to congratulate now whatever he said. He's investing a lot into matters of trying to recover these monies that have been given to this industry to be put to test. And one of the things that we have to mention is the issue about Mumias, Sony, and the other companies must actually. Kenyans are getting tired of task forces, forming a task force to investigate this issue. Can we begin to give the report? Mr. President, this is the report about Mumias.
Right.
You see, this is the report about Sony. Could you act on it?
And then we have a problem with the people who are being selected to come up with the results or the report. We just saw what happened with the parliament the other day. We're still waiting on what happened with the lawmakers in regards to the sugar importation that we saw, contraband sugar coming to the country. I want us to move to maize right now, and I want to borrow from what the president said on Saturday, that most of these maize sellers, majority are not from the farming region. A good entrepreneur who comes in, he is able to buy maize, and then he goes to sell to maybe the National Cereals Board. So he goes to the farmer, buys with a lesser price, then he comes and sell it on a higher price. And still the same person may not have, according to the president, and I'm quoting him, may not have gotten those maize from the country. So
or even might not have applied the maize.
True, true. So what happens with the real farmer? Because the little money he gets, he cannot even be able to produce quality products, and that could be the reason as to why we don't have enough when it comes to calamities like we saw the other year, how we suffered. We were importing maize even from Mexico. What do you think should be done?
I mean, so number one, I want to appreciate the president, or congratulate the president, because he's been really fighting corruption, and again focus on the maize, because the president has been very keen, and I think one of the CS that should actually really be very attentive and be very, make sure that he plays his cards very well is Mwangi Kiunjuri, because he's more on the hot soup or something like that,
right.
And if we go back even during the showground, when we had the SK show here in Nairobi, and the president openly pointed and told him that you need to stop all these games and you need to act very right. So the president, number one, is very key on his legacy in terms of the big four agenda, because that's what he wants to achieve right now. He wants to make sure that we have food security. He wants to make sure that we have good housing. He wants to make sure that we have great health as well.
True.
And so that's the focus. And so when you come to the maize, we've seen all these things. And again, what my brother says, that all these things play political. It's political economy. Is that, yes, I'm not planting any maize, you know, I don't maybe own any farm, but because I can easily get, you know, the maize from Uganda, and because I know the, you know, the chairman of the, you know, the cereal board, or even maybe Mwangi Kunjuri is my good friend, then I will just tell him, like, you know, Mwangi, I'm going to supply these guys with this number of bags, you know, and because, you know, Kenya, we are corrupt, and I'm not saying in a bad way, but probably you say, okay, you know, Mzee, if you give me this deal, I'll give you maybe 20% of this, and the guy will say, yeah, it's fine. So at the end of the day, we leave our maize farmers suffering, because as long as we bought, we'll tell them that, you know, we no longer want to buy their maize. And so I think that has been the problem, and we need to solve this thing politically, as you know, my brother said, that yes, it's an economical issue, but in a political way. So if you can be able to come in as politicians and know that, let's not, you know, let's not make our farmers suffer in the name of politics, in the name of probably maybe making happy or something like that. So I think that should be the key thing, is that how can we solve this thing politically? Right.
Yeah, still on political will, Daniel, let's talk of the market control. Because one of the reasons most of our farmers are struggling is because of the products that we get from abroad. What should be the distribution and production formula that we should have to ensure that whatever we produce is enough for ourselves and it will not call us to import products from outside?
Well, I think one of the things probably we need to have some stringent measures when it comes to hoarding. Because you see, when you hoard goods, it leads to a number of destructive activities, and especially it's detrimental to economy. But somebody probably would see it as a way of getting rich. And you see, I like what the deputy president actually put proposal towards, hoping is as serious as he said it. That there need to be a contractual. There need to be a contractual agreement between the producer and whoever is supplying to. Right. So that, you know, it becomes, there is a base at which there is accountability. You can hold somebody accountable when, for example, your payment is delayed. For example, if some matters arise, you know, you're not satisfied about something, then there is something official you can refer to. But again, this is coming to at a time when, you know, Hillary, I am even lost exactly when we are wondering. When we have a big 4 agenda that we are enrolling, and we are talking about revamping our manufacturing, where did we lose Vision 30? Where did we lose it? And you see, the pillar of Vision 2030, especially economic pillar, speaks to the language of an ordinary Kenyan. And when probably we sit in the show, and I like what Calvin has just mentioned, we are sitting here that we advise our good government on what to do. And probably one of the things that we can advise, if there is any government officials watching here, is that we need to find a way of tailoring our big 4 agenda that resonates with our Vision 2030, putting the interest of Kenyans. And you mentioned that the markets, who dictate the market's prices, who controls the market? When we are selling our autonomy to outside countries, and for example, we are not only even in the maize, what about our tea? We are producing a very nice tea in Kericho.
And coffee too.
But then, and coffee too. What happens? It gets exported. Then the value is added. It becomes, you know, imported back to us. Our own tea that we produce. Then we pay more for it. You know, why are we doing this to Kenyans? Because our leaders has not been so strong. You know, when you are thinking about getting about territorial integrity, getting territorial authority, is one of the things we are mentioning, that even as we sign East African treaties and East African trade area, Kenyan interest must be the first put as a priority. True. But even as we export our goods, there must be the value about Kenyan. True. It must go with Kenyan in it. And when we begin to spell this, and this is why Donald Trump is doing so good. As much as people do not like Donald Trump, he makes sure that American interest is put first.
Yeah, that's true.
This is what our president needs actually to put first. And I see him doing this.
Right.
When he has started mentioning, like, you know, you don't need to sell your product to outside and the province, he's encouraging Kenyans. Could you begin to circulate?
Yeah,
Can you
within.
begin to make your demand so high for your own benefit?
All right.
And I think, just to add on that, and I think one of the key things, because, you know, manufacture falls under the Ministry of Industrialization.
Yes.
Right.
And I think one of the focus area is that they should look at a manner of focusing on a value addition, like my brother said.
Right.
I mean, most of the time we've done a lot of this manufacturing and all that, but can we focus on a value addition for all different aspects? And that will actually is going to increase our market. And even locally we can be able to consume, because if you can add value on something, I would actually be more interested on buying it. So I think that should be also a clear focus in the manufacturing value
All right.
addition.
We have less than a minute, and I want you to answer this very fast as you give your final comments on the two events, the show, the SK show, and last weekend the president said these people should be paid. As the farmers, they should be paid. How do you think the farmers should be paid and they will not cry again as we finish 30 seconds each?
There is a list of those who have supplied. You know, this comes back to clear in documentation. If you supply, there is a list that you supply. I think for the first time, President Uhuru Kenyatta should just send Mwangi Kiunjuri physically to supervise on the payment of these guys. And I think after that, Hillary, it becomes so difficult to hold so many people accountable. You know, when you are holding whoever is in charge of NCPP accountable, down there are people who are accountable. The PS of Agriculture is accountable. The minister will come. It actually becomes tricky for you to know who is who.
Right.
So the president should actually just clear state that I have sent my cabinet secretary in charge of agriculture to supervise the payment and give a deadline of such and such a date. I would expect a report that I would share to Kenyans. I don't think you'll ever hear there have been issues about that.
I mean,
Calvin.
yeah,
Yes.
I mean, that is, so for me, I'll go to, I mean, I'm sure you can do that, but for me, I'll go to one thing, and this is a fact. I mean, for example, I mean, Mwangi Kiunjuri, if he's watching, I mean, integrity is key. And we can build everything in integrity. And it's not only today, but when we actually build things on integrity, we actually show the young people that actually we are heading to the right direction. So for me, I would like to say is that, you know, get the right list, pay these farmers, follow up. You don't even have to be there, but because of integrity, make sure that these people are paid in the right way.
And in
those
good time.
people, yeah, and on time. And those people who actually maybe been paying some money somewhere that the president was talking about and saying, you know, don't pay those other people, pay the right people.
Right.
So those other people, as the president said, those other people actually should be bring to
Arrested
book
and prosecuted.
or they should actually answer and say, maybe we supplied maize A, B, C, D, because maybe they might have actually supplied maize.
Right.
Yeah, so I think that should be the key focus.
All right, many thanks for coming and sharing your comments. It has been an awesome topic of discussion tonight. Many thanks once again. They have been my guest, Daniel Oroga, political analyst and an entrepreneur, Calvin Jodosi, and you back home. Many thanks for keeping us company. Coming up next is Y Mashariki, DJ Tieska. I see him very much ready to entertain you, being a Monday. See you on Wednesday. My name is Dereva Hillary. Good night.